Most people assume beachfront living requires either generational wealth or a willingness to sell organs on the black market. They scroll past properties in Malibu at $4 million, Miami Beach condos starting at 800 grand, and even the Jersey Shore demanding half a million for something your grandparents would have called a shack. The narrative writes itself. Beaches equal money. Money equals beaches. If you're not rich, you're landlocked. Except that's not actually true. Scattered across America's coastline are beach towns where you can buy waterfront property for less than a used Tesla, real beaches with real sand and real ocean access, where median home prices make city dwellers question their entire financial strategy. The catch is always there. Sometimes it's hurricanes that'll periodically try to erase your investment. Sometimes it's water too cold to swim in without a wetsuit and questionable life choices. And sometimes the catch is just geography, like being located in a state most people actively avoid. But if you can accept the trade-offs, these places exist right now with actual affordability. We're breaking down 9 dirt-cheap beach towns where land ownership isn't fantasy. You'll see everything from Gulf Coast properties under 200,000 to Atlantic beaches that haven't been completely devoured by gentrification yet. Some need serious consideration about flood insurance. Others require accepting that winter exists and will hurt. All of them offer something most Americans assume disappeared decades ago: beach access without trust fund requirements. Starting at number 9, we head to Grand Isle, Louisiana. Population 1,400 people who looked at Hurricane Katrina, Gustav, Isaac, and Ida, then decided waterfront living was still worth it. Median home price sits at $165,000 for a barrier island 2 hours south of New Orleans. That's cheaper than most suburban apartments in landlocked cities. The beach delivers wide sandy shores, warm Gulf water, and pelicans dive bombing for breakfast. Locals brag about catching dinner from their back porch, which sounds romantic until you realize the nearest grocery store requires a mainland expedition. Your 165 gets you a cottage on stilts that's been rebuilt approximately 7 times since the 80s. Flood insurance runs 2 to 5 grand annually. Hurricane coverage depends on which insurers haven't fled Louisiana entirely. One resident put it simply: you can't put a price on catching dinner from your porch. Technically true, except insurance companies absolutely did put a price on that porch. The trade-off is clear. You're getting America's cheapest beachfront by accepting that tropical depressions will occasionally form in the Gulf while you're drinking morning coffee. Your elevated deck will watch shrimp boats head out at dawn, while Cajun French drifts from older fishermen. Salt, marsh, and diesel mix in the humidity. Then your phone buzzes with a weather alert, and you remember why this place costs what a used Honda does. Number 8 shifts us to Westport, Washington, where the Pacific Ocean averages 52 degrees year-round. This is beach living for people who find actual swimming overrated. Median home price hits $285,000. Population 2,200, mostly commercial fishermen, wetsuit-clad surfers, and artists drawn to moody atmospheres. The beach is legitimately stunning. Massive driftwood logs scattered across dark sand, waves crashing with cinematic drama, fog rolling in like nature hired a special effects team. You'll often have the entire beach to yourself because most humans prefer water they can enter without hypothermia risk. Washington charges no state income tax, so you're getting Pacific Ocean access at Gulf Coast pricing in a state that won't take a percentage of your remote work salary. The catch arrives as seasonal depression, which isn't exaggeration but legitimate medical concern. Westport gets 85 inches of rain yearly and 140 sunny days. That's 225 days of gray. If sunshine dictates your mental health, this place will break you by November. If you find beauty in storm clouds and wild coastlines, welcome home. So far, the choices are hurricane anxiety or seasonal affective disorder. Completely different kinds of misery, same affordable beach access. Number 7 proves even California has loopholes if you're willing to drive far enough from civilization. Crescent City sits at California's northern tip with a median home price of $295,000. Yes, California. Yes, beach. Yes, under 300 grand. No, not a typo. This town sits 350 miles from San Francisco, 6 hours of winding highway from anything resembling a major city. It's closer to Portland than Los Angeles, but still carries that California zip code, which matters for tax reasons we'll get to. The setting delivers ancient redwoods meeting the Pacific Ocean. You can walk among trees alive during the Roman Empire, then watch sunset over the Pacific that same afternoon. Battery Point Lighthouse sits on an island you can walk to at low tide. Tide pools teem with life. The beach curves in that dramatic crescent, giving the town its name. Property taxes run 0.8%, low for California. You could buy a 3-bedroom home with garage for what a San Francisco parking space costs. But here's the pain point. California state income tax maxes out at 13.3%. You might save 700 grand on a house compared to Southern California, but if you're a remote worker making decent money, Sacramento takes a cut that Oregon or Washington wouldn't touch. One Bay Area transplant said it plainly: "I bought a house for what my parking spot cost." The catch is you're 6 hours from Trader Joe's. That's the exchange. World-class natural beauty, genuine California coastal access, prices that make Angelinos weep. But you're functionally living in Southern Oregon while paying California taxes to a state too far away to provide actual services. The town's biggest employer is Pelican Bay State Prison, a maximum security facility. Second biggest draw is Redwood National Park tourism. Your neighbors are either corrections officers or seasonal park employees. The local economy runs on incarcerating people and showing tourist trees. We need to address the tsunami situation because pretending it doesn't exist would be irresponsible. In 1964, a tsunami generated by an Alaskan earthquake destroyed downtown Crescent City and killed 11 people. The town rebuilt in the exact same spot because apparently the redwoods justified the risk. Evacuation routes mark the streets throughout town, which you'll find either reassuring or existentially terrifying, depending on your relationship with catastrophic uncertainty. Picture a foggy morning walking through old-growth redwoods where trees reach 300 feet, and silence is so complete you hear your own heartbeat. Then you emerge onto dramatic coastal bluffs with the Pacific crashing below. That's Tuesday here. It's also 6 hours from the nearest international airport. The question becomes whether you'd pay California's income tax to live somewhere that feels like a different state entirely, and whether tsunami evacuation routes enhance or destroy the coastal living fantasy you're chasing. Number 8 brings us to a state nobody expects to appear on affordable beach lists. Texas, where no income tax meets Gulf Coast reality in Port Aransas. Median home price $375,000. Population 4,100 year-round, 70,000 on summer weekends when Houston evacuates. The beach delivers wide sandy shores and warm Gulf water. Here's the most aggressively Texas feature possible. You can drive your truck directly onto the beach. Park in the sand, throw fishing rods in the back, crack a Lone Star, and question why other states ban this obviously correct approach to coastal living. The vibe channels Key West before gentrification destroyed it. Fishing boats mixed with golf carts serving as primary transportation. Beach bars play Jimmy Buffett without irony because irony requires self-awareness. Port Aransas deliberately avoids. No state income tax means Texas won't touch your remote work salary. That savings alone could run $10,000 to $30,000 annually depending on where you're escaping from. But real estate listings bury the uncomfortable truth in footnotes. Hurricane Harvey made landfall near Rockport in August 2017 and proceeded to essentially obliterate Port Aransas. The town was devastated. They rebuilt because Texans rebuild, but the memory persists in insurance rates that induce physical pain. Flood insurance is mandatory. Wine coverage costs real money. Finding long-term rentals approaches impossible because vacation rentals absorbed the entire housing market. One Reddit user summarized it: "If you want a beach town with soul that hasn't been completely gentrified, Port A delivers. Just don't expect to find a rental. Property taxes deserve their own complaint department." Texas giveth by eliminating income tax. Texas taketh away with property tax rates hitting 1.9%, among the highest nationally. On that $375,000 house, you're paying over $7,000 annually in property taxes alone. Add insurance and the no income tax advantage starts looking mathematically complicated. Imagine riding the free ferry to Mustang Island, pelicans keeping pace with the boat, dolphins occasionally performing. You pull into town where everyone waves because that's protocol here. You grab fish tacos from a place serving the same fishermen for 40 years. Then you check your insurance premium renewal and need a drink. That's Port Aransas. The soul is legitimate. The hurricane risk is also legitimate. Number 7 forces us to address the elephant, which is the entire state of Mississippi. Gulfport. Population 72,500 people living actual lives in an actual city. Median home price $195,000. Not a typo. Under 200,000 for a house in a beach town with real downtown, real restaurants, real economy. The Gulf Coast's best kept secret is that Mississippi exists. Mississippi consistently ranks last or near last in education, healthcare, infrastructure, basically every quality of life metric that matters. The same economic factors creating those rankings also create cost of living 16% below national average. You can buy a 3-bedroom house within miles of beach for what a down payment costs in California. The beach itself is actually quite nice and also technically man-made. After Hurricane Katrina obliterated the coast in 2005, they trucked in sand and created 26 miles of continuous public beach along Highway 90. It's one of the largest man-made beaches globally, which is either impressive or a metaphor for Mississippi's entire economic development strategy, depending on your cynicism level. Research revealed surprises. Gulfport has a legitimate art scene, excellent Vietnamese food from the fishing community that rebuilt the industry, and diversity challenging stereotypes. The population is 35% black. The Gulf Coast is genuinely more varied than inland Mississippi. One local artist explained, "People think Mississippi is just poverty and problems. They don't know about the Vietnamese food, the art scene, or the fact that their dollar stretches twice as far here. The job market is more stable than expected." The port of Gulfport handles international shipping. Keesler Air Force Base in neighboring Biloxi provides military jobs. Casinos line the coast. It's not glamorous, but it's employment that doesn't disappear when summer ends. Remember Grand Isle's hurricane problem? Katrina literally erased Gulfport's beachfront in 2005. The surge was 28 feet. Everything within blocks of the coast simply ceased to exist. They rebuilt. 20 years later, you can still buy here for under $200,000. Think about that. Katrina proved exactly how catastrophic it could get, and prices still haven't recovered to Florida levels. That's either opportunity or warning depending on how you process risk. You're sitting at a waterfront restaurant eating the best pho you've had outside Houston, watching ships depart from the port, palm trees swaying along that man-made beach. Your mortgage payment is less than your friend's car payment in Denver. Mississippi isn't asking you to love it. It's just asking you to do the math. Number 6 shifts us to the Atlantic coast, where affordable means something completely different, and beach towns come with boardwalks and nostalgia. Carolina Beach, North Carolina, median home price $425,000. Gulf Coast viewers are scoffing. $400,000 for cheap. But here's context. This is the Atlantic coast where beach towns typically start at $600,000 and climb from there. Jersey Shore, forget it. Long Island, laughable, even Myrtle Beach has gotten expensive. Carolina Beach remains stubbornly attainable by East Coast standards. The vibe is pure Americana beach nostalgia. The boardwalk has an actual Ferris wheel, arcades, funnel cake vendors, and families dragging coolers across sand. This is what beach towns looked like in the 1980s before developers replaced personality with luxury condos. The beach itself is classic Atlantic. Wide and sandy with good waves for surfing and water warm enough to swim May through October. It's 15 miles from Wilmington, which means access to real city amenities, hospitals, jobs, and an airport without living in an actual city. Working-class roots kept Carolina Beach from fully gentrifying. While neighboring Wrightsville Beach went upscale and prices doubled, Carolina Beach held its character and its local families. The result is a real community with year-round residents working actual jobs, not just vacation homeowners counting rental income. The hurricane situation is moderate for Atlantic coast. Hurricane Florence hit in 2018 and caused damage, but nothing like Gulf Coast catastrophes we've been discussing. Insurance is expensive but not impossible. Flood zones exist but don't cover everything. The problem is that $425,000 median is climbing fast. Remote workers discovered Wilmington during the pandemic, and Carolina Beach is getting spillover effect. What was affordable 5 years ago is getting less affordable every year. The gentrification clock is ticking, and you can hear it if you listen closely. It sounds like craft brewery permits and boutique hotel proposals. One local resident, a transplant from New Jersey, offered perspective. Compared to what we were paying, this is incredibly affordable for beach living. Compared to Florida or Mississippi, I guess it's not cheap. And that's the honest truth. Cheap is relative. What's expensive in Gulfport is a screaming deal compared to the Jersey Shore. Sunset on the boardwalk, the Ferris wheel lit up against an orange sky, kids running with ice cream cones, beach music playing from a bar that's been there since your parents' honeymoon. It feels like a memory even while you're living it. Number 6 breaks the pattern entirely because we're leaving the ocean behind. Manistee, Michigan, Lake Michigan, freshwater. The median home price is $195,000. No hurricanes, no flood insurance nightmares, no salt corroding everything you own, no sharks. Crystal clear water that looks like the Caribbean on a calm day. The same price as Gulfport, but instead of Gulf Coast humidity and hurricane anxiety, you get Lake Michigan magic and 6 months of brutal winter. The beach is legitimately gorgeous. Wide, sandy shores, water so clear you can see the bottom at 8 feet. Sunsets over the lake that rival anything on any coast. The lighthouse pier makes for Instagram photos that look fake. Victorian architecture lines the downtown because lumber barons built mansions here a century ago. And now you can buy those mansions for less than a condo in Chicago. Winter. We're talking 80 or more inches of snow each year. Temperatures below zero. The beach you're buying will be under ice and completely inaccessible from November through April. That stunning summer lifestyle has an expiration date every October. One local put it bluntly. From June through September on Lake Michigan is as good as anywhere in the world. From October through May, you'd better like books, skiing, or drinking with friends indoors. This isn't an exaggeration. This is the deal. But flip that around. No hurricanes ever. Your insurance costs are reasonable, about $1,000 to $1,500 a year. Not the $5,000 to $7,000 Gulf Coast premiums. You don't spend August checking weather apps for tropical depression updates. You don't evacuate, you don't rebuild, you just shovel snow and complain about winter like a Midwesterner. There's something to be said for predictable misery versus catastrophic uncertainty. A Chicago transplant captured it perfectly. I traded Lake Michigan views from a $500,000 condo for Lake Michigan views from a $180,000 Victorian. Same lake, different price. The math checks out if you can handle the season. The job market is limited. Traverse City, 75 miles north, has more employment but isn't commutable. Remote work is the play here if broadband reaches your area. Lake Michigan summer is genuinely special. The water is cold even in August, around 70 degrees at most, but it's refreshing rather than shocking. There are no jellyfish, no seaweed, no salt coating your skin and car and everything you own. Sailing culture is huge. The fishing is world-class for salmon and steelhead. A July evening, the sun setting over Lake Michigan, turning the water gold, the lighthouse silhouetted against the sky, the temperature a perfect 75 degrees with low humidity. You're thinking you could live here forever. Then picture the same view in February, frozen solid, wind chilled 20 below zero. And you remember why this place only costs $195,000. Number 5 returns us to the Gulf Coast, but with an Alabama twist that makes the math work differently than anywhere else on this list. Gulf Shores. Median home price $350,000. Population 15,000 year-round, and approximately everyone in the South during summer. The beach is identical to Florida Panhandle beaches because geography doesn't care about state lines. Same white sugar sand, same emerald water, same Gulf of Mexico. You're 30 miles from Pensacola, but you're paying Alabama property taxes? Alabama has the lowest property taxes in the nation. We're talking 0.4%. On that $350,000 house, you're paying about $1,400 annually in property taxes. Florida charges 0.9% on average. Texas charges 1.9%. That property tax difference alone could save you $3,000 to $5,000 annually compared to Texas forever, as long as you own the property. One local real estate agent put it simply, same beaches as Destin, same sugar sand, but my property taxes are a quarter of what they'd be in Florida. That's the Alabama advantage. And honestly, she's not wrong. The beaches are indistinguishable from the Florida beaches you see in commercials. The catches are familiar by now. Hurricane Sally flooded much of the town in 2020. Ivan did serious damage in 2004. Insurance is expensive and the vacation rental situation is brutal. If you want to rent before buying to test the area, good luck. The entire housing stock has been absorbed by vacation rentals because everyone from Birmingham and Atlanta wants their own beach place. The competition for long-term rentals is fierce enough that some residents drive from Mobile 40 minutes away rather than try to find housing in town. Gulf State Park deserves special mention because it's 6,150 acres of protected beach and nature that will never be developed. That's not changing. The park guarantees permanent beach access in natural areas regardless of what happens to the rest of the coast. It also hosts the Hangout Music Fest if that influences your decision-making at all. Let's talk about the summers because someone has to. July in Gulf Shores is approximately 1,000 degrees with 90% humidity. The heat index regularly exceeds 110. The Gulf water is warm enough that it doesn't even cool you off that much. This is the price of year-round beach access on the Gulf Coast. Winter is lovely, August is punishment. You're walking on beach sand so white it looks fake. The water that impossible emerald green. Dolphins visible in the distance. Your property tax bill arrives, and it's less than your friend's monthly student loan payment. Then August arrives, and you understand why everyone who can afford to leave leaves. Number 4 takes us to Florida's Forgotten Coast. Locals call it the Forgotten Coast because they actively want you to forget it exists. Port St. Joe. Population 3,600 people who would prefer you not move here. Median home price $365,000. There's no state income tax. The beaches are consistently rated among the best in America by Dr. Beach, and almost nobody has heard of it. The beach situation is genuinely special. St. Joseph Peninsula State Park has repeatedly landed in the national top 10 for beach quality. We're talking pristine, undeveloped coastline, crystal clear Gulf water, sea oats waving in the breeze, and almost no other humans. This is what Florida looked like before developers discovered it. This is what Panama City Beach was before spring break. The lack of development is intentional. One local put it simply, "We call it the Forgotten Coast because we want it forgotten. Once people discover it, it'll become like everywhere else in Florida." There's a certain logic to this. The limited amenities are features, not bugs. No Walmart means no Walmart shoppers. No chain restaurants means supporting local spots. No high-rises means actual views. Here's the brutal catch. Hurricane Michael made landfall in October 2018 as a Category 5 storm and devastated this entire region. Port St. Joe wasn't the direct hit. That was Mexico Beach. But the area took serious damage and some of it still shows. The hurricane risk here is among the highest on the list. This is Florida's Hurricane Alley. The Panhandle catches storms that curve around the Gulf. Michael proved how bad it could get. Michael was the strongest storm to hit the Florida Panhandle in recorded history. Insurance reflects this reality. After Michael, some insurers left the region entirely. Rates are high and rising. The Florida insurance crisis is most acute in exactly these areas. But here's the flip side. The hurricane that suppresses demand is also why you can afford it. Any developed Florida beach town, Destin, Naples, Sarasota, starts at $600,000 and goes up from there. Port St. Joe offers equivalent beach quality at nearly half the price because the risk keeps buyers away. You're on a beach that stretches for miles without a single high-rise in view. The water is that emerald green that looks photoshopped. You pass maybe 3 other people in an hour of walking. At night, the stars are visible because there's no light pollution. Then hurricane season arrives and you understand the trade-off. Number 3 might be the biggest surprise on this entire list. Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Median home price $265,000. If your brain just short-circuited at Mississippi and arts community in the same sentence, you're not alone. But this place exists. It's genuinely wonderful. And the prices are genuinely absurd. The downtown is walkable, galleries line the streets. Live oaks drape Spanish moss over colorful buildings. James Beard-nominated restaurants serve food that would cost twice as much in Charleston. The Peter Anderson Festival draws 150,000 visitors every November for one of the largest arts festivals on the Gulf Coast. One gallery owner said it perfectly. Ocean Springs is what happens when artists can actually afford to stay somewhere. In Key West, they got priced out. Here, they built the community. This is the counter-narrative to every artist can't afford coastal living story. They can afford it here. So they stayed. So the culture grew. So the restaurants improved. So the community became something special. And somehow, despite all of this, the median home price is still $265,000. The beaches sit on the Mississippi Sound protected by barrier islands, which means calmer water but not the open Gulf. For pristine Gulf beaches, you take a ferry to Ship Island, which is part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore. This matters to some people and not to others. The hurricane history is real. Katrina destroyed much of the town in 2005. They rebuilt. The thing that emerged from rebuilding was arguably better than what existed before. A community that chose character over chain stores. Mississippi's broader issues, the education rankings, the healthcare rankings, the infrastructure, these affect Ocean Springs too. You're not escaping Mississippi by moving to its prettiest town. You're just living in the prettiest part of a state with systemic challenges. But consider what you're getting. Arts community, walkable downtown, excellent food, Gulf access, and a median home price that wouldn't cover a down payment in comparable towns elsewhere. Remember Gulfport's $195,000 median? Ocean Springs is $70,000 more but comes with the culture premium. Remember Port St. Joe's pristine beaches? Ocean Springs has the community Port St. Joe lacks. Different vibes, different values, similar math. A Saturday morning, you're walking through downtown under live oaks, coffee in hand, galleries opening their doors, the smell of jasmine mixing with Gulf air. A local musician is setting up for an afternoon performance. Your mortgage payment is less than rent for a studio in Austin. Someone from New York visits for the Peter Anderson Festival and can't believe this place exists. That happens regularly. Number 2 is Rockport, Texas, where Artist Colony meets Fishing Village meets Whooping Crane Sanctuary meets the exact spot where Hurricane Harvey made landfall in 2017. The median home price is $310,000. The town was essentially destroyed and then rebuilt by people who refused to let it die. The art scene survived because the artists came back. The galleries that got destroyed now display art about the destruction. There's something profound about a community that processes trauma through creativity. The beach is calmer here because Rockport sits on a bay rather than the open Gulf. No big waves, excellent kayaking, protected water that's perfect for families. The Aransas National Wildlife Refuge hosts the last wild flock of whooping cranes, which makes this a pilgrimage site for birders every winter. Tourism has 2 seasons here, summer beach and winter birding. One local gallery owner captured the rebuilding. Harvey took everything. We rebuilt it the way we wanted it, not the way developers wanted it. No state income tax, world-class birding, artist community, bay and Gulf access. Prices that make sense. The catch is that Harvey proved exactly what nature can do here, and nature hasn't signed any peace treaties. Remember Port Aransas just up the coast? Same Harvey, same rebuilding, different vibe. Rockport is the quieter, artier alternative. Number 1, Mexico Beach, Florida. Population 1,400, slowly rebuilding. Median home price $340,000. On October 10, 2018, Hurricane Michael made landfall here as a Category 5 hurricane, the first Category 5 to hit the United States mainland since Andrew. The town was literally erased. Aerial photos looked like a bomb had detonated. Homes weren't damaged. They ceased to exist. From that destruction, something remarkable is emerging. New construction is being built to modern hurricane codes. Beach cottages on stilts keep that old Florida charm, but are built to actually survive the next storm. A community of people chose to return and rebuild. Prices exist only because the trauma keeps some buyers away. This is Florida Gulf Coast beachfront at Mississippi prices. The catch is brutal and obvious. A Category 5 hurricane already proved it will come here. One homeowner who rebuilt said, "Michael took everything I owned. I rebuilt anyway. This beach, this community, it's worth the risk to me. We're building something better than what we had." The beaches remain pristine and uncrowded. The water is still crystal clear, emerald green. The sand still squeaks when you walk on it. Nothing about the natural beauty changed. What changed is that you can now buy Florida beachfront for what a condo in Tampa costs. 9 beach towns where coastal living is actually achievable if you accept why each one stays affordable. Hurricanes, cold water, Mississippi governance, Michigan winters, Category 5 direct hits. Every deal has a catch. Every catch has someone who considers it worthwhile.